What's up? What's up? What is up? It's another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hog Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. For those of you who have been a part of the experience, you know how we do it. We do it rough, rugged, and raw. We bring you the funk every single Friday morning. And so this is going to be another episode where we bring the funk. Today's episode is going by the title Two Foul Shots. Stick with us and understand why we say two foul shots. But there was one movie way back that inspired this particular episode, the title of this episode. And so stick with us. You'll learn more about the title. You'll learn more about sports, business, and entertainment. You'll hear it the only way that we do it, rough, rugged, and raw. Sports, business, and entertainment coming to you. Let's go. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Because this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. In the building, right back on like we ain't never been off, because it's the crew, the entire crew. Finally, all three of us, man, here on a Friday.
Been a minute.
It's been a minute since all three of us. You know, we got
This
busy
isn't
lives.
the first of the year, is it?
It's the first of the Black History Month year.
Man,
That's not a year. Of
That's
the
what I
Black
understand.
History Month. Sorry.
Of the
It's the first
Lunar
Friday
New
of the Black
Year.
History Month. Chinese New Year, Black History Month. It's the something significant. Today is the 3rd of February. We only got 25 more days, so let's make sure we get in. You see, I wore my black tie for Black History Month. We gonna kick off this first Friday of Black History Month with this episode called Two Foul Shots. And the entire crew is in the building, so I want to make sure everybody gets their proper due and proper introduction. We're going to start in the middle coast, the coast that it seems to be very cold. They got this windy city that they call Chi-Town, Chirac, some people call. And we have the best of Chirac, the entire metropolitan area. The one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, he who shall be known as and recognized internationally and galactically. Is that a word? Galactically known as the Big Flow Show's in the building.
Man, what's good, y'all? You know, I appreciate you guys are so fashion forward, always wearing hats and stuff, so I can cover up and get warm inside this frozen tundra that we have and put a hat on, represent my Chicago flag. But yeah, it's cold in here, man. It's cold.
It's kind of cold out here, but you knew what you was getting into when you moved back.
I'm gonna bring it hot to y'all. I'm gonna bring it hot for you guys today. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The winter heat, also known as the Ball Hog Sports Talk. The winter heat. We got from the East Coast, the man, the myth, the legend, and thou shall be known as Mr. Beantown himself, representing everything from Boston, including Boston Baked Beans. Y'all don't know about that candy. Boston Baked Beans representative himself, that man, ETP Ellis, the producer. What's up, my brother?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Salutations. You know, and I did see that unfortunately the Celtics did whoop up on the Nets again. And I say unfortunately because everybody's getting further and further ahead of my Miami Heat. I see my man Chad Bennett in the house talking trash early in the morning, talking about the Knicks over the Heat. How shall I not at least acknowledge that? Rivalry week in the NBA, and we lost to the rivals by 2 points. Tyler Hero got a good look at the basket, but missed. And that shall be the last time we ever mention the Knicks on this sports show, because we talk real sports, not that Knicks stuff. Two foul shots, man, inspired by the great movie Blue Chips. And if you remember in Blue Chips, the mom, I don't remember who she was the mother to, but the actress says something to the effect of, and this is when she was trying to coerce a coach into giving her one of those envelopes. You know, one of them envelopes that goes under the table. This is before NIL. This is when recruiting and the financial gains related to were considered hush-hush. And the mom said something to the effect of, a foul is not a foul unless the ref blows the whistle.
Facts.
Pretty profound, right? Pretty profound. This week in AAU basketball, I looked at a kid who he called our offense real silently, and I said, man, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? And he looked at me real confused and said, yes, it makes a noise. And I was like, I don't know if it does or it doesn't. The point is that you got to be louder and call out these plays. And the
that has no connection.
None whatsoever. But I just wanted to make sure y'all was awake. The connection that I'm making is that the referee, while they acknowledged after the game that it was a foul, he didn't blow the whistle. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, how dare you not understand the comparison to the LeBron non-call? LeBron James is playing against the Celtics, rivalry week. LeBron James does what LeBron James does. LeBron James drives to the basket, gets clearly fouled by Jason Tatum. And there is clearly no whistle being blown.
Clearly.
And it then goes to overtime. LeBron gets pretty dramatic when the non-call occurs. Pat Bev doubles down. Pat Bev went and got a camera and showed the ref. First time ever I've seen that, by the way.
Fantastic.
Tries to show the ref the play. The ref feels as though he is being shown up and gives Pat Bev a tech. They go into overtime. The Celtics ultimately win. And it is the non-call heard around the world. And so in this episode, because inspired by Blue Chips, the foul's not a foul unless the ref blows a whistle. We're going to blow the whistle. And we're going to take that moment to create 2 foul shots when it comes to the topic today, sports, business, entertainment. And the first topic being the LeBron non-call, the 2 foul shots are going to be very extreme. The first extreme is, look, LeBron just surpassed Steve to become 4th all-time on the assist list. LeBron is days away, imminently close to passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for all-time points. So LeBron is the greatest player ever, case closed. That's one extreme in some sense.
All right, it's been a good show, guys. Let's go. We finish everything. Say we all
Like,
Sunday.
that was easy.
Word came out my mouth. But the other shot that might seem foul, egregious, offensive to the Big Flow Show is that he's one big old crybaby. And that when you get a non-call, it's just a non-call. Step up, go win in overtime. And that moment is an example of why so many people on the LeBron hater train hate so hard on LeBron. It's because LeBron literally went into Oscar mode, acting, and he almost fainted. I think at one point his heartbeat stopped because he didn't get a call. And so let's deal with those 2 foul shots. One extreme, he's the greatest ever to play the game at the level that he plays, at the age that he's playing it. He is now in 3 separate franchises, the all-time leader in terms of points per game, including the Lakers, his historical franchise. So can we appreciate him just for that, or do moments like this just mess it up? Now, I think we all know where I land. I think we all know where Big Flow Show lands. So I think it's only right to start with ETP. 2 very foul shots, 2 extremes. The greatest of the great, case closed, or is he a crybaby extraordinaire? And this moment just captured it. Start with you on this one, ETP.
I don't know. I mean, the question is hard to answer as like an either or, right? Like in that situation, for me, I look at it like if I'm 20 years in the game, my 6 generations away will never have to worry about money. And I'm still passionate enough about a foul call to end the game in the regular season. I mean, what I just look at it like what we're witnessing is somebody that is just built and designed to do exactly what they do. And the fact that he's still passionate about it, I have to respect that. Crybaby or not, like it was a foul. He had every right to dispute it. He didn't get a technical. He kept his composure relatively. So I mean, the professionalism in the heat of the moment, I thought, I mean, there's not really anything bad you could say. You could call him a crybaby, but that was a foul. Michael Jordan would have gotten that foul with half the physical contact. Like if we're talking about, if
they
we're
would have
gonna
called the foul.
make the comparison about what, you know, if he's the GOAT or not, like he gets no calls, like not no calls, but like he is under officiated in ways that like Michael Jordan was over officiated. So if we're gonna call him a crybaby, that was a foul. Like
it was a foul. It was
so
a foul.
so if we're good, so like you can't call him a crybaby if
right
he's
now
complaining about getting a bad call. Like
But
that's not a crybaby.
Hey man, he's still talking, man. Bobby, he's spitting right now. He's talking about stuff.
He is spitting.
What you saying? What you saying?
Bars. I know you loving these bars.
What you
LeBron
saying?
James bars. But as Chad Bennett points out, in that moment, and I have to look back at the video, so I'm not going to repeat it as though it is fact. But Chad Bennett, one of our live audience viewers, says LeBron traveled on that play.
Man,
so
Chad,
I present that just to say LeBron also gets away with a lot. So yeah,
not on that
was a non-call. LeBron has been called for traveling. First of all, and this is the entire NBA, so not just LeBron. But then there are levels to this. LeBron, in a crucial moment, will absolutely not be called for travel. Does that mean it's not traveling? And I think Jason Tatum, being a rising star, arguably, I would say he's top 10 right now in the NBA. So he's in that upper echelon. When LeBron when there was a non-call foul-wise, it also was a respect of another superstar, another great Jason Tatum, who didn't get the foul call there. I hate to do this, but I got to do it anyway. I'm going to you on this one, Big Flow Show. 2 foul shots. I know which extreme you want, but make me believe it. Make me believe that this great, one of the greatest, if not the greatest. I'll put that out there as a possibility, right? The numbers support that. But when people like me try to compare the greats, and just because you brought the name up, ETP, like a Michael Jordan, I just think, and again, I was a sycophant for Michael Jordan. I was one of his disciples, just like you are for LeBron. But I just think that Michael Jordan takes that non-call as fuel for his fire. He goes and leads his team to an overtime win. Instead, not only is LeBron crying, he got his crony, Pat Bev, to go get a tech. So you've hurt the team even more. They could have called a tech on LeBron because he was so demonstrative, and that's one of the qualities for a technical foul. But now Pat Bev is like, nah,
towards
the
official. Towards the official. But he wasn't.
I mean, showing him up and fainting, that's not to. It wasn't
towards the official. He was reacting, but he wasn't reacting towards the official. That's why he didn't get the technical.
First of all, get off LeBron. All right. Okay. Let's just start off with that. You don't need to be doing all this disrespect of the king. So look,
the king.
First of all, I had to agree 100% with E. I don't think I've ever agreed with him more. They would have called that on Jordan. They would have called a flagrant one against that if that was Jordan. You know what I mean? He would have got 2 shots and the ball. I think that's flagrant one, but he would have got 2 shots and possession after that. So that doesn't happen. And Jordan absolutely cried about fouls. I love people that act like that crying stuff never happened. So how come there was technical fouls back then? Huh? They used to get mad and go off.
I think there's a difference between complaining and crying, but I got you. I got you.
We call it crying, complaining. But you know what, though? Things evolve, right? We got to look at stuff. We keep trying to compare eras. I always got. I knew Shelton had to build something up on here, man. We'll just
Shelton Jordan says best of his era, best crybaby of his era.
Man. Go on, man.
He threw a shot.
Go watch it. Go. Isn't there a UFC fight on right now? But look, at the end of the day, it was a foul. The game was on the line. My man was out here putting up his stats and doing what he got to do, trying to lead his team to victory. And you letting people cheat. He cares, man. He's gonna cry for the foul. That's how you get the next one. But I think we're trying to compare eras and say, oh, well, they're too much crying now. Well, you know, you're blaming LeBron for doing something that people do now. People flop now. People didn't flop as much back then, but they flop now. Reggie Miller used to flop a little bit. Excuse me. But people flop now, and that's what LeBron is going to do. What other people do. People cry about fouls now and do whatever. People did all the same stuff before, right? They did all that stuff before, but they were all the same kind of range, you know what I mean? The level of crime. But they got text before. They complained to the rest before.
Doesn't it seem weird?
Huh?
Doesn't it seem weird? And this is sort of this.
Yo, there's a clip. Hold on. There's a clip of Michael Jordan, the famous clip when when the ref asks him if it was a foul. And then Michael Jordan says, yeah, it was a foul. He's like, I believe you, Michael. I'm going to give you the foul. Like, this is a famous clip.
Fair. So that aside, we know that the NBA rode Michael Jordan's coattails into becoming international business. And so some of it from the drug test decisions, there was a lot that Michael Jordan influenced. And some would say from Isaiah Thomas not making the dream team, there's a lot of fingerprints, Michael Jordan fingerprints on the NBA. So I'm not comparing the two when it comes to that. What I'm saying is though there were also non-calls in his era, and he just seemed so competitive that he would just went out and win the game. And
stop saying that though. That's
LeBron is absolutely right. It was a foul. The NBA admitted that it was a foul. What I'm saying is it just seems weird that within a week of him getting to the fourth spot on the all-time assist list, within 10 days, because it's happening very soon, of him becoming the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, knowing that he's about to pass Kareem, something that people thought would never be done. It just seems weird that within 10 days of that same milestone, fans have been given by LeBron, I didn't create this, fans have been given yet more evidence of what makes it so difficult to be a LeBron fan. That was dramatic. I'm sorry, man. You didn't get a call. You gonna faint? What, you gonna pout and have a temper tantrum? What we doing here?
Stop acting like that. I don't understand what you're doing.
What do you want? You want him to not care? You want him to not care about the game? Like, I don't understand.
I want him to get mad, say it was a foul, and move on. I don't want somebody going down to their knees, putting their hands up, touch, like it was extra. And I would tell and to be fair, as a dad to a young man, I would tell my son that, like, yo, bro, chill out, move on. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Not hypothetically, I do it on a weekend by weekend basis.
This can't like you on some real like armchair commentary. Like you're gonna sit here as a former athlete and current coach and say that you can't get caught up in the heat of the moment of competition and a pivotal situation that basically is potentially going to determine the end of a game when they are at risk of missing the playoffs where he's trying to win a championship. Like, I don't understand how you're like all of those like things, now you just sound like a hater. Like, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Fair. And I think that's where the two foul shots, the two extremes come from, because LeBron fans, I think it's that binary. Either you love him or you're a hater. Now, I teasingly say that I'm a LeBron hater. Look, he gave us 4 good years. I'm not going to hate him. I like to appreciate greatness.
Like,
I never liked Kobe, but I respected it. I'm going to say this. There are levels to that. Can you get caught up in the moment and complain about a non-call? Absolutely. Is there a point where you've gone too far? Absolutely. And I feel like LeBron got to that point and then some. I mean, he literally almost hit his knees and like, come on, bro, it's a non-call. And oh, by the way, we got more basketball to play. We're in overtime now.
The NBA, the official statement of the NBA is this was something that we can't sleep at night because of the missed call. Like, the acknowledgement of how egregious this was, but we're gonna hold LeBron accountable for being too reactionary to something that was an injustice in terms of the game.
Do you think there were any other non-calls in that game?
Sure, of course. There's non-calls in every game. But not to end the game and not as obvious as that.
There's never been a non-call to end the game.
Every non-call was the same. Did he cry about every other non-call? Did he do all that?
Bro, in the context of it, it's a game before All-Star Weekend and a team that, without having anything to do with that referee, on their own accord, is at the bottom of the Western Conference.
And they're trying to climb. Like,
Yeah,
why are you condemning him for caring about the outcome of a game in his 20th year?
It's tough to reconcile that with a guy who's about to eclipse Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be the all-time leading scorer.
Right, because most people don't care that much at that point.
This man is fourth in the assist leading. He leads a bunch of teams in points per game. Every team he played for, he's the all-time leading scorer, whatever. But you want to worry about how he reacts to a foul.
I don't want to worry about that. Huh? He made me worry about that.
What did you say earlier? What did you say earlier? You say it's only a foul, they blow the whistle. That wasn't even a tech because the dude didn't throw a tech. So it wasn't a big deal. If the ref didn't think that was a big deal, what the hell are you talking about? What do you know that the ref don't know?
Which means within 30 seconds of having made a non-call or had a non-call on the foul, he gave LeBron the benefit of the doubt and didn't give him the tech. What I'm saying to you is that it has been a topic of conversation, not on this show only, exclusively, but on every talk show, not because of me, not because of you, not because of the ref, but because of freaking LeBron. And that's tough to reconcile with a guy who does absolutely do amazing things on the court. It just
haters gonna hate.
Call it hate. We're talking about it because of LeBron.
We're talking about a reaction.
We're talking about it because you're condemning LeBron for having a passionate reaction to an incorrect call that had a fact that played a factor in determining the outcome of a game, which influences their record, which might compromise their standings in the end of the season. Like, what are we talking about?
Very, very fair. All of those mights and stipulations and conditions to it had nothing to do with that referee. And a game in prime time, I just think, this is my opinion. Yes, I get caught up in the moment with the emotions of the moment as a coach. And that's I admit that. But at the same time, not, again, hypothetical. I've had to live it. I gotta at some point move on. And I felt like Bron just went over the top with it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Let's get to the NFL, because while we're talking about two foul shots, there's some extreme perspectives on the NFC. I was going to say NFC. Let's talk about both conference championships. We'll start with the NFC. And please, because I see people still commenting, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. Make sure that you help us help other people by sharing it, tagging somebody. Won't cost you a darn thing. It is a total of free $99, and you can help your boys out. It's the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. So help us help other people by liking, commenting, tagging, and subscribing. Appreciate you in advance. Let's get to the conference championships, because in one conference championship, the NFC game, which was first, we got to see you talk about two foul shots. You had Brock Purdy that got hurt. Josh Johnson that seemed defeated before he got in the game itself. You're like, man, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't realize Josh Johnson had played for so many franchises.
15 years.
And then the non-throwing 49ers. Brock Purdy goes out. Turns out that he was really hurt. He's got to get Tommy John surgery, the UCL. And Josh Johnson comes in. And it got bad real quick, but it got even worse because he hit the ground and allegedly was concussed. The NFL definitely didn't want to be in another Tua situation, so I'm assuming that they got a call from the higher beings. Back of his head definitely hit the ground. So I can see where they didn't want him to continue playing with all of those eyes watching and all the scrutiny the NFL is under. But then you're in a situation where you don't have an emergency quarterback. And I know Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels have some quarterback-like qualities where they could get a snap and basically run wildcat and might be a gadget play here or there. That's different than taking every snap, making every read, needing to throw the ball in order to balance the offense and keep the defense on its toes. And it just didn't work out. So two foul shots. First foul shot is we got to see on one extreme, my shot that I would take is that we got to see the big bad Philadelphia Eagles, the team that at one point was, I think, 12-1. I think they got to 12-0. So I think their first loss was 13 games in. A team that is, had the NFC home field advantage throughout, on a team that will be advancing to the Super Bowl. We got to see their dominance. The other foul shot is that they just got lucky. The odds of not one, but two quarterbacks on a team that only has two quarterbacks, on a team that at that point got to its fourth quarterback, if you consider the injuries prior to Brock Purdy getting into the lineup. The other extreme is that we don't know what's going to happen in the Super Bowl because it was more of a manifestation of the injuries than the Eagles dominating the game. Which shot you think is more prevalent in terms of what we will see? I'll start with you on this one, Big Flow Show. I watched the entire NFC Championship game and was just disappointed that we were at that point such a low where Brock Purdy had to just come in and hand the ball off. I was thinking, man, throw it with your left. He's got to be able to throw one pass, but turns out smart that he didn't, or he would risk further damage. What do you take from that NFC Championship game as we move forward into the Super Bowl?
I just can't believe that they didn't have another quarterback out there. I mean, you're going into the playoffs. You always hear about guys getting called up, that were packing groceries or teaching a class in junior high or something that just they needed you for the playoffs. They called you up. I mean, I hate to go here, but Colin Kaepernick probably wasn't busy. Cam Newton probably wasn't busy. I bet you could have got one of these dudes to suit up. I mean, some people say, well, they never thought they'd lose two quarterbacks. They were on their fourth quarterback anyway. So you should figure they was on their third with Brock Purdy.
Purdy's third and Josh Johnson was fourth.
So they were on their third and fourth quarterback anyway. So you already know that you could lose two, right? So like if anybody knew you could lose two, just get another guy. Get somebody in there that could just throw a pass. I mean, I started to feel bad for him. It looks so stupid because it's like, all right, we got 12 in the box. Keep doing your little fakes. I'm tackling you, man. Everything was a tackle for a loss. They just blitzed and brought too many. It got to be bad. And this sucked because, I kind of thought they were going to win, man. Bang, bang, Niner gang is where I was at that day. I'm not mad at all the Eagles won because I think there's some storylines there that I can appreciate. But I hate that the game ended. I hate that that's what we got to see for the championship. It should have been two great games. Turned out to be like a joke.
It was a joke. That was the toughest thing we heard all week is you come on here and say, bang, bang, Niner game. I did pick the Eagles, but I don't want to say I told you so. So I'll just say I told so
just
you.
Ask E what he thinks. That's all.
He's undefeated. Hey, hold on. I got to go back just to go forward. My girl, Amanda Bender, who is a referee, it definitely trickles down to the youth. They copy everything the NBA players do. It's bad at the youth level from coaches to 10-year-olds. I bring that in just to say that's an angle that we didn't take. And we don't have to rehash it, but I want to make sure that the source,
but
I'll make sure that the source is acknowledged that she's a referee. So her credibility is beyond ours when it comes to how these things translate into the youth level of sports. So just saying.
Amanda, since you have so much to say, was that a foul? Since you have so much to say?
I'm saying, like, what do you?
No, she didn't say it was a foul. I think
you're
she was
basically
saying,
saying,
no, I was asking
she didn't
her.
say
She
nothing.
didn't say that. That's why I asked her.
She didn't support your point, and like you're basically saying nobody can dispute that she's saying the kids copy NBA players at the youth level. Facts. But like that doesn't say anything about what LeBron did or didn't do.
Well, it does not. But if they
well,
copy,
you're saying it does.
If they copy normal NBA and NFL players and try to emulate their behaviors, what do you think they're going to do with arguably the greatest of all times? They're going to copy your team.
Let me ask you a question as a coach. When your team loses, if they're smiling and laughing and high-fiving the other team, that's what NBA players do now, right? They hug each other. They're telling jokes to each other after they lose, even in the playoffs. Like, what's wrong with it? That's fine. Or like they could copy that. That's acceptable or not acceptable?
It's acceptable in moderation. I don't want them exchanging jerseys and doing all of that, no. But at the same time, because I've seen kids not shake hands, I'm big on after the game, we're going to go shake their hand. So I do want them to understand sportsmanship matters. So I just say in moderation. Your point you're making, I fully receive. is that these players go over the top with jersey exchanges. They taking live Twitter, Instagram. So your point I take, but I just wanted to make sure I qualify and say in moderation. I absolutely encourage him to make sure we go shake hands.
I know you had the pleasure of coaching with Bobby. Is that correct?
for a short period of time. Yes.
How did he act when there was missed calls? Eloquently,
like missed calls.
Don't say that. I'm not talking.
I mean,
because I know Bobby,
I cannot confirm nor deny that there might have been some flags thrown by somebody
I know
that wasn't.
I have another friend that likes to always tell me all these rational responses he should have to anything that's a completely irrational person when emotions are involved. And B would be in that category. So I guarantee B would be the one that go crazy and go nuts.
Well, since you brought it up in the playoff game, I did. I got a penalty. And guess what I did?
Because LeBron did it?
No, it was within the first 5 minutes of the game. Guess what I did? Continued coaching.
So you
because
that's the reason why it stays in your mind, because it only happened once. So that's why you can come up with that
several
example.
Times, man. Come on, man. I've been around the game for 39 years. It's happened several times.
There's any refs out there watching that have ever refed a game that Mr. Brainerd Bumpy Johnson Brown was coaching reffing? I want you to tell me how well.
Hey, do as I say, not as I do.
Because I know you're an emotional guy. People get mad. That's what I say. I had someone sent out an email, or I saw someone on Facebook this morning. I won't digress too far, talking about kind of the way people are treating refs these days and how things are going. And I responded to him saying, listen, I coached football and basketball for a number of years, and I realize that most parents, when it comes to sports, suck. It's because they love their kids too much, and love makes us do stupid things. Sports are a passionate outlet for society. That's why they pay LeBron and all these people all this money, because we like to be moved emotionally. We like to be able to cheer for a team. We like to get excited, and we like to do whatever because we have normally mundane lives. So within that, we get so surprised when, a person who's in the game, who's putting his life dedicated to this, acts emotionally. It's crazy. Look at all these Cowboy fan videos. You can look on Cowboy fan videos, people punching TVs, perfectly good TVs in their house because the game lost. That's what happens with sports. Our emotions are moved. So LeBron, who's arguably the greatest athlete of all times,
not a fan,
don't want him to get at all emotional
LeBron
because something happens. Man. He worked so hard to get to you've been promising a dunk at your age for a year. You about to have another birthday, still ain't give it. LeBron is gonna give us that dunk, right? At his ripe age. What is he, about 43? He's at his ripe age.
He's
LeBron
72.
He's been in the NBA most of his life, and he still cares enough about the game to be mad at a foul. And we're like, I can't believe he acts like that.
Yeah.
You know how hard, he only has AD for 10 games. So what are you gonna let this dude come in? Huh?
If y'all want to go tell y'all sons that was cool, I'm just gonna tell you what I told my son.
I'm not gonna say it was cool.
I'm gonna tell you what I told my son.
It was understandable. It was understandable.
Don't be no biat and expect nobody not to treat you like a biat. At some point, you gotta move on. And he did.
You're talking about
losing overtime after being melodramatic. I'm just telling you what I tell my son. I'm being authentic, bro. I was like, yo, don't you ever act like that on no court. Why? Because I know he's watching. Why? Because I know he aspires to be better at some point in his life than LeBron. I want him to understand that means being better in all aspects, not just in basketball. Be better than that. That's why he's 12 now. We having real conversations.
Well, follow your own advice.
That's the conversation we have.
Move on. He's over. He wasn't even.
We were talking about. Thank you for the contribution to Miss Referee Amanda Bender.
What up, Amanda?
Appreciate you following. We were talking about the NFC Championship game and the extremes of the outlook on it, and I just want to know whether or not the Eagles, based on what they showed us, and they had sort of an easy ride. I hate to call it that, but it is what it is. They played an overachieving New York Giants team, and we said that they didn't play enough to give us a good look going into the NFC Championship game. And then they played an understaffed, injured 49ers team. Yes, they caused the injury, but no one expected that to happen. What do we think that means going forward? Which is the most extreme? I'll go to you on it now, ETP. I appreciate you weighing in on it, Big Flow Show. We're going to hop in quick and answer that before we get to the AFC. What say you, ETP?
I mean, we could talk about the ease of what is strength of schedule or weakness of schedule. But I mean, the fact of the matter is the game against San Francisco was a boring, lopsided victory, primarily because that front four, I mean, I think in a season they had 68 sacks on the season. And so they're burying quarterbacks all season. Right. And that's what they did in San Francisco. Unfortunately, San Francisco ran out of inventory. They had no more quarterbacks on the shelf. And that's what happened.
Quarterbacks back there?
Yeah, it's like we all out of stock.
At halftime, they was doing a survey. Which one of y'all played quarterback in high school? Raise your hand if you.
It had to be a kicker out there that played quarterback in high school. It had to be one.
It's it's like, well, all we got is a size 12. So if you could fit in those, you could take those home. That's basically where it was. So this could happen against Kansas City too. I mean, Mahomes is on, 1.5 legs. So this could end up, being foreshadowing of what happens in the Super Bowl. So.
I hope not. Let's get to that game because you brought up the name Mahomes. And from that game, the two very foul shots that I took from that game. First of all, on one side, you had Patrick Mahomes and this war against Joe Cool. The idea, what were they calling it? They were calling it Burrowhead instead of Arrowhead.
Burrowhead.
The fact that they had not beaten them, I didn't realize that. You had the game part of it, but then the way it ended. And the other foul shot is the penalty at the end. The linebacker Joseph Ossai, who I think had an amazing game, best player on defense the entire game. Unfortunately, while he would have won MVP of the game, in my opinion, just based on, not part of the game, of defensive MVP of that AFC Championship game, he ended up winning offensive MVP for
donkey of the day
because of that penalty. But Terrell Owens talked about it, how the players, there was only one player that really stayed out there with him. You talk about true emotions. Now, to watch that man cry on the sideline, when he put his helmet on, I knew what time it was. I knew there was going to be the floodgates were going to be open. My wife just happened to be passing by the TV and was like, oh, like those were genuine, raw emotions. Again, not to go back, but that's different than what I saw in the Grammy-nominated, Oscar-nominated, situation out there in Boston.
Why you didn't tell him to move on?
Because those were raw emotions, man.
Oh yeah, LeBron didn't have none of those.
Those were raw emotions.
You got love with a man look up and to the left and start smiling because he's like, shit,
raw emotions that he waited to emote until the clock read 0, 0, 0.
That was the next play.
No, it wasn't. He put his helmet on after
the clock read 0 after they kicked the field goal and won. That was dead.
So no, it was the kickoff too. There was a kickoff too where he was still on his feet after looking like he hyperextended or tore his ACL watching the game. It wasn't until the clock read 0, 0, 0. He sat down, put his helmet on, and started crying. So
why did you tell him?
The bigger story
of should he be crying? He shouldn't be crying then.
No, he should absolutely be crying. That moment, he lost the game.
What?
Was it a miscall?
How does the logic, is there gravity on Earth or is there no gravity on Earth?
He was personally responsible for the play that lost him the game to go to the Super Bowl.
Move on.
Fair.
I mean, kids are watching.
As long as we're consistent.
We're
going to compare
want your kid to be crying outside.
Hey, kids copy everything that professionals do.
Hey, they should cry if they have that much of an impact on the game, and it's a negative impact.
You're right.
But we're going to compare
LeBron's
that.
foul at the end of the game, non-call, had no impact on the game. I see. At least you're consistent.
They still had more game to play.
He could have blocked
the
field goal.
And he played the game.
He could have blocked the field goal.
Look, man. For y'all, it works. For me, it doesn't. I'll just say this. What's the bigger story when you think of those two extremes? Because you want to celebrate what Patrick Mahomes did and overcoming the sort of proverbial elephant in the room that he could not overcome, which was beating Joe Burrow's Cincinnati Bengals. But the truth of the matter is to watch this young man be that emotional after the game and to hear people like Terrell Owens talk about the brotherhood of football And there are also clips of his teammates blaming him for that. What's the bigger story out of that game when you think of the outcomes? I'll start with you on this, ETP.
Is the biggest. I mean, for a game to end on a penalty, that's the hardest. That's the hardest pill to swallow. And I hope that guy. I hope that he manages that well, and he uses this to kind of give him motivation and doesn't break his spirit. That's a hard thing to carry. And also I appreciate, you see the two sides of it, right? Like I played high school football, and there's situations that cost us games, and there's players on that team that cost us games that, like, I look at them sideways to this day about mistakes that they made. So and there was no money on the line.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely the bigger story. Like, that's, it's unfortunate. It's the worst way. It's the worst way for a game to end, either on a no call that's obvious or on a call that is, that's unfortunate. But it just shows, man, you got to stay focused all the way to the end.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that one. In terms of the bigger story, I'll go to you first on it, Big Flow Show. What do you think? Because I do like what Zach Taylor, the coach for the Bengals, said. He said you can't blame it on one play. And
people say that, and I've been hearing that all week. You can't blame things on one play. This, that, here. It was the first down that they didn't get in the second quarter that could have made it, could have, would have, should have. Great players are judged at great times. The reason why we even have conversations about LeBron being the best, because it really should be no competition, is because what he's done in clutch time, what he hasn't done in clutch times, which makes it questionable, right? Even though the evidence is overwhelming for what he scored and all the different things there because of how he's in the clutch. And I think he has to live with that. And so on this situation, you said this guy was defensive player of the game, did whatever.
He had a great game. Joseph Ossai was having a great game.
If it's a rough in the quarterback, a hustle play, you're trying to run out the tackle quarterback and you touch his helmet or you fall on his leg, or if it's a PI, you got beat and you had to grab the dude, whatever. If there's like a hold, all those are hustle plays trying to make an effort. He hit Mahomes. Mahomes was almost out of the white when he hit him. And then
pushed him. To be fair, he pushed him. He didn't really hit him.
Which is even worse.
Fair.
Because that was even more avoidable, right? He pushed this dude into the fans. So you're way off in a league. Look, those days are over, right? The days that you can get a lick on the quarterback are done. That's not today's NFL, and it hasn't been today's NFL for a while. The play that he made was like from the 80s. Well, let's see if I can lick this dude. It's the end of the game anyway. You're trying to smack this dude and do whatever. He extended himself so hard in the follow-through that he almost blew his own knee out. And he fell into the fans. It was not like a bang play. It was way late. It was super stupid. He needs to know better than that. So he deserves all the negative feelings that he's going to get for that play. But again, life does go on. You don't decide this player is not, if he gets cut, I'd like the Bears to scoop him, for instance. So, like, I'm not saying he's not worth it. And then to be completely fair, it was a tie game. They might have kicked the field goal from that spot. Now, the field goal that they kicked, he had to bring a little different leg. The field goal he kicked would not have made it from 15 yards further. But that's not to say that the guy couldn't have made it from 15 yards further. That's not to do that. And that's not to say that the Chiefs wouldn't have won in overtime. This wasn't a case of they were up by one, and that totally lost the game. So you had to put it in perspective. But that being said, what an incredibly stupid play that was. Incredibly stupid. But you gotta put it and frame it and just say things could have happened before that. Obviously, they could have been up by 50 when it happened, but they weren't. He did everything in his power for them not to be up by that. Everyone else on the team collectively put them in a position where they were tied at that point in the game. They were counting on him, and he went back to the 80s and tried to hit a dude when he was damn near in the locker room. But
see, I think it's more foul in the grand scheme of things that you had certain players, and the one player said, "Hey, man, it was raw emotions." But what he didn't say is, "Hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that about my teammate." He's like, you guys captured raw emotions. One of the linebackers who, oh, by the way, had a drastically worse game than the person in question. The player that we were talking about, Joseph Ossai, I think that's how you pronounce his name, had a phenomenal game. So the same linebacker that's caught on a hot mic, basically dissing his teammate, why he do that? Had every opportunity to make plays and he didn't. And so that's where my challenge is that, and hats off to Terrell Owens. That's when you know we've reached a whole different frontier in sports. When Terrell Owens is the reasonable mind in the room, talking about the brotherhood and unselfishness of football. Where there's, on the heels of a pandemic, that makes sense. That's the only way that makes sense. But shout out to him for being the cooler head, calmer mind that prevailed and said what it really is. You and I can pick apart Joseph Ossai's decision, and it was a very stupid decision to push Pat Mahomes in that situation because we're not his teammates. But I think that there is something protective that should be a part of sports that, to me, it was foul how his teammates treated him. Fans, all right, fans gonna be fans, but I thought it was a bit foul to be on a hot mic, essentially blaming that man for that one play when you have 4 quarters of football, 4 quarters of opportunities where everybody, including his compadre, his partner linebacker, had opportunities to make plays.
Do you ever feel that you are selective in the way you think emotions come in and don't come in? And this is an honest question. If those at home don't even listen, this is just a B&B conversation. You don't feel like you're selective on when emotions play a part in how people act?
I guess I would be,
because I mean, like right after it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a hot mic. The conversation that wasn't meant, he wasn't giving. You just say he gave a press conference. Now I only know about this because you're saying it, so I might be getting it wrong. But it wasn't like
so fair.
He didn't hold a press
agree
conference.
with the hot mic.
So you're telling me that after that happens on a game and someone gets a penalty, that the person on the sideline who also wanted to go to the Super Bowl is supposed to think of the entirety body of work.
You didn't hear
they have, and that person has, and is not supposed to say, why did he do that? That's no. I just want to make sure we're clear.
You're being selective in what I just said. What I said was, when given the opportunity to answer to why he made the statement on the hot mic, he did everything but apologize to his teammate and say, I was wrong. I don't care emotionally. Yeah, you're going to be blaming people, or not even blaming people. You're questioning why he would do that. That's really what it was. But now you come back and tweet out something in response to the recording that was leaked, and it still doesn't seem to me is that you're approaching as a teammate and being empathetic to your brother. That's what I'm saying.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Of course, it's a hot mic. Like you catch a hot mic, you catch me on a hot mic today, and I'm gonna say something inappropriate that I wouldn't love.
You guys should have heard him before the show started.
That would love to be posted. All right, so let's move on, man. Let's go because at the end of the day, there are 2 stories that both have to do with brothers in the Super Bowl. Because the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles won, their 2 biological brothers, the Kelce brothers, that are playing each other. First time ever in Super Bowl history that you have 2 biological brothers facing one another in the Super Bowl. I'm sure the Kelce family is going to have a great time. The Kelce, the mom is already
2 coaches do it.
Say again.
2 coaches. The Harbaughs, right?
Yes, the Harbaugh Bowl. Yes, but never two players.
I know. I'm just add a little sauce to it.
Yep, and it's really cool to see Jason and Travis Kelce's mom with the split jersey. Shout out to them, man. That's a parent's dream. But also, it's going to be the first time 2 black quarterbacks, 2 black starting quarterbacks, will be facing each other. So the proverbial hand up, fist in the air brothers are also first time they're facing off. This week, it seems as though the sports world has taken a different approach to each one of those stories. I don't think there's anyone in America that doesn't like the feel-good story of the 2 Kelce brothers playing one another. But as it turns out, when the story was published about the 2 brothers, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts being the first 2 black quarterbacks to be starters in the Super Bowl, when that was published, you can go through the comments and you can see that somehow, some way, there are sports fans that take issue with that being even published, with that being even mentioned, with that being recognized, saying This is how you create division and being derisive, and this is why racism exists. And reading some of those comments, I was just confused. So I ask you, 2 foul shots. The first shot, let's talk about the brothers. The second shot, let's talk about the reaction to the brothers, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts being the 2 starters. Let's go with the Kelce brothers first. What do you guys think about it? I'll go with you first on this one, ETP. Really cool, feel-good story. But it seems as though, did I start with him the first time?
Every single topic, but that's okay.
I defer. I
don't care. It's just funny. You're like, oh, let's start doing. How about you?
I thought for sure I started with you in the line. I'm sorry. I'll go with you first on this one, Big Flow Show. Feel-good story of the Kelce brothers versus the reality that these are the 2 first black starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, not which is a better story, but in terms of the reaction, how all of America feels good about the first story, the biological Kelce brothers, when it seems very divided on the second story. What say you?
I would say, obviously, the 2 brothers playing against each other is fantastic. That's a great storyline. What a dream, because you start thinking about all the times, I got a brother, you have a brother, you sit down there playing a pretend football game or whatever, and you guys are, I'm going to be this team, you're that team. We're going, you go through it. And to think that it actually comes true and to see how tight they are as brothers, they're both really good dudes too. They're likable characters.
Yeah.
It's great story. Fantastic. The mom, she got to make sure she got her hair did right because they're going to be panning on her every other play. So she got to be right. But what a great moment for them. So I'm happy for both of them on that thing. For the quarterback situation, I mean, I do laugh at so many people that are so upset about it. I haven't really heard any of it like in your face or even like about time. It's really just been like, oh man, this is cool, man. 2 black quarterbacks for the first time. It's been the sentiment that I've been hearing. And so many people are so put off and so upset by it. I mean, the fact that it's the first time that it happened, I mean, it shouldn't be news, but it is news, which says something. In 2023 is the first time 2 black quarterbacks have ever faced each other. Sounds crazy. You know what I mean? Like, what? How can this actually be the case? There's been black quarterbacks for a long, long time. Only 2 have made it. But I don't think the stories have been negative at all. I think they've just been celebratory and happy. Like, where have we gotten to? Where have we come to in a place doing them? If we have 2, we've had 2 black head coaches, right? Because Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy went against each other, I think.
Yep.
So it's good that happened. Yeah, it's good that we got whooped though. But it's good that happened, And but at the same time, I don't really understand why people are so put off by pointing out something that's out there. So I think it's a great moment. I think hopefully it happens so many more times that we never have to talk about it again.
ETP, I'll go to you on this one now, man. And it's just odd that I saw both stories, and I like to look at the comments because it gives you sort of a rundown on what people are talking about related to the stories. And I didn't find a single, there were some fans, either Kansas City or Eagles fans, that were making comments under the Kelce brothers. They were showing their support for their team. Like, ain't no family lines, like stuff that was more like fandom and fun. But you didn't see any, socio-political, this is how you create division in this world. This is how you create nepotism. You didn't see similar comments under that story that you did when you saw the published story of Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes being the first combination of starting quarterbacks who are both black. So in terms of those 2 shots, man, I'll go to you on it before we move on. What say you?
I'm actually surprised about the other thing that's crazy. So Kelce is what we call them, but according to Jason, their last name is pronounced Kels, but everybody just says Kelce. So that's just crazy that like we all just say Kelce. But at any point,
Mama named Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised that this is the first time. I know there's been brothers like the McCourty brothers for the Patriots. They won a Super Bowl, but they were on the same team, which I think is even crazy. I mean, I don't know which one is crazier, but for them to be, it's super notable. Like, I know there's been a lot of Gronkowskis, but not at the level of, starters and elite players at the same exact time.
Yep.
So So yeah, I mean, it's
I was
notable.
surprised too that these were the first biological brothers to play each
I
other.
was looking for the last
surprised by
time.
that, too. Yeah.
The last time they played against each other, or
No, I was like when I found out they're playing, I was in my mind thinking, oh, when's the last time that happened? I definitely didn't think it was the first time.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, folks, brothers and siblings are, you get a couple of Shannon Sharp, Sterling Sharp, but they just never cross paths.
You got the Bosa brothers now, but
yeah, Bosa brothers, but one
yeah.
plays for the Chargers, so that'll never happen.
No offense.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's got to be for their inner circle, for their family, for their friends, for their neighborhood, for everybody that knows them. It must be like a really electric situation, and they probably getting hounded for tickets, but they got twice as many, so that's cool. And then on the quarterback side, it's only a matter of time. It's pretty crazy that it took this long, but we always talk about things when it comes to progress with Black representation, so it's not that surprising. Black cops can kill Black men now. The world's changing.
And how dare we not, man, on that note, take a brief but meaningful moment of silence. We all know, how do I want to say this? We all know what's happening in this country. And I think in terms of the swift justice there in Memphis, but in terms of the representation of the 5 officers that have been, they were terminated and I think now charged with the death of Tyre Nichols. So let's take a brief moment of silence for, Tyre Nichols and his family and for America as we continue to try to heal over stuff that seems beyond us in 2023. What a sad story, man. He liked to skateboard, love sunsets, and it seems as though there's a lot more to the story that's unfolding. And so, you brought it up and worth a moment of silence there. As we kick into the next part of the show, second half of it, I'll ask you again humbly, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. All right. NFL coaching carousel. You find interesting things in these several weeks, right? You had DeMeco Ryans get hired by the Houston Texans, the same Houston Texans that have gone through not one, but 2 Black coaches in as many years. They both got a 1-year stint, and they went and hired one of their own. DeMeco Ryans was a phenomenal linebacker for a Russian linebacker type for the Houston Texans. And so now, as the D coordinator from the 49ers, he is now going to be the head coach of the Houston Texans. But in the same week, we hear that Kellen Moore from the Dallas Cowboys parts ways. I love when they say that. Parts ways with the Dallas Cowboys. He doesn't get fired. And so, 2 foul shots, just the most extremes. In one sense, I'm happy for a person like DeMeco Ryans in a league like the NFL that has obvious, and like we talked about last week, I think it was called an obvious race problem, right? So you're happy for DeMeco Ryans, but then you see a guy like Kellen Moore get to phrase it that he parted ways from the Dallas Cowboys. Where are we at when it comes to this coaching carousel, when it comes to race and coaching? Let's just go quickly, and I'm going to start with you twice in a row, Big Flow Show, to make up for all the times I didn't start with you.
Fair is fair.
2 foul shots in terms of those are extremes. Like, you're happy for a guy like DeMeco Ryans, but it's on the heels of not 1 but 2 in as many years, Black coaches getting not a short leash. There wasn't even really a leash there if you only get 1 year in the NFL with that roster, right? So it's tough to reconcile that with the fact that they've now hired this young up-and-coming Black coach. And then in the same week, you see a guy like Kellen Moore say he parted ways with the Dallas Cowboys. Black coaches don't get to part ways. They get fired and get their parking spot taken. So I'll start with you on it, man. We think of those 2 extremes and how people are treated in that coaching carousel. Quickly, just wanted to get your take on it.
I'll give a quick analogy when I think about the Texans. I think they think that we're really stupid. My daughter used to sneak out of her bedroom when she was like 2 years old or 1 year old, something like that. In the middle of the night, she'd open the door and I would see her. She would close the door for like 10 seconds and then she'd open it again, try to sneak out again to think maybe I would forget, right? And I was like, this little 2 year old, she thinks she's fooling me because she closed the door for 10 seconds. And I think when they fired the first coach at the Texans, they were like, oh shit, we're going to get caught up in this
David
Flores
Culley.
situation. So let's just go ahead and hire Lovie Smith. Nobody thought he was a candidate. No one thought he was up for the job or whatever. We just hired Lovie Smith. They'll stop talking about us. So 10 seconds later, they figured Dad fell asleep. Let's try to get. They fire Lovie Smith. And they're like, oh, you guys still remember that we fired a black coach in 1 year? So then they get this other dude a job. And I'm like, what are they going to do? Give him a year in the game, 2 years? Like, what are they going to do with this dude? It's funny. And then I thought to myself, like, who would want to take that job? But then I thought, me, yeah, I would take the job. Who cares? I mean, like, I'll take an opportunity to be a head coach.
Yeah, I'm not that self-righteous. Give me
I'll be all right. We'll figure it out. Hey, man, this is different. They've changed, y'all. They've changed. Please buy tickets.
But how then did Kellen Moore part ways with the Cowboys?
You know what? That's one of those things.
Their offense
like,
was atrocious.
I'm almost tired of complaining about that. We know it's going to happen. I don't begrudge anybody for bringing it up and pointing it out again. Once again, they part ways and they say all these different things. But it's like whatever. You can't. The problem is it's like the media is doing it, so it's not even like somebody who you can really attack. And the media who are supposed to be excruciatingly liberal, I argue with a lot of my conservative friends is, you complain about liberal media being swing, but they've been on us just as much as conservative media has been too. So I think the person who says part ways it's like, I said part ways, didn't I? Yep. They did their, it's like they called the Commanders the Redskins again. They oh man, I did it again. So they're just so used to it. So I don't mind people complaining, but it's like it is what it is at this point. I just shake my head.
ETP, I'll give you last word. Those are two extremes. And then you throw into that the value that the Saints and Broncos put on a guy like Sean Payton, who's been out of the league. And I like Sean Payton as a coach. It seems weird, right? And the extremes between the value, the extremes between the verbiage, the extremes between the job security or lack thereof, right? Kellen Moore should have been fired a long time ago. And then you get these two brothers in 2 consecutive years with the Houston Texans that are fired. And, oh, yeah, like the Big Flow show. I love that analogy. Maybe we're not looking anymore. And they'll hire DeMeco Ryans. And hopefully he'll have more than a 1-year runway because he'll need that there in the Texans. And he's one of their own, having played there. But we've seen the NFL not necessarily treat their players like one of their own. So many examples. Including a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit and collusion. There's so many different examples of it. So where do we go from here, right? Because around this time of year, every single year, we have these hirings and firings, and the way they're described, the people that are given a little more security in the opportunities seem to represent a race issue, the apparent race issue in the NFL and beyond the country. I'll kick it to you briefly. I know that's a mouthful, but 2 foul shots, those two extremes. What do you think?
So, I mean, obviously the narrative of fired versus parting ways is, we've talked about it ad nauseum. It's a trend, but the one thing that like this, it actually makes me think it's potentially even deeper than just, media spin, where there's contracts negotiated. And when there's a contract in place where I have to agree to leave the organization, we're parting ways. When there's not a clause in my contract that protects me in that way, you can fire me, right? So I have to believe that there's also potentially some trend in the negotiation and in the contracting of these deals with black coaches versus white coaches in terms of a commonality. That it's not just, the media is just trying to be more kid glove about white firings than they are with black firings. Like, I also have to believe that it goes even deeper down to the contract negotiation where a black quarterback is just happy to have the opportunity. So they don't necessarily have as many protections in their contract as the white coach that has the agent and their position where they're able to negotiate, because we know in all parts of corporate America, in terms of contract negotiations, black people are at a disadvantage on average in terms of the terms that are negotiated, from salary to benefits to contracts to all of that. So that piece, like, I don't want to just look at it as this surface item is, oh, it's just the way that they publicity wise. Like, I would argue that it's probably a lot deeper and structural than we're even talking about.
Super valid point.
Very fair.
So,
Very fair.
So that's one, right? Which is fucked up. Like,
that's worse. Actually, that's way worse than anything that I had thought about in the past.
So that's one. And then the other thing that's crazier to me about this whole thing is this is the first time, and it's actually not really talked about that at all, but just from following it, DeMeco Ryans was in like high demand. Like, he was offered multiple head coaching jobs where black coaches are fighting and struggling for one coaching job. He turned down the Broncos, that has a legacy of success and has, executive leadership and all of this in an organization. He turned that down and decided and let them go. Like, they were not going to hire Sean Payton. They were going to hire DeMeco Ryans
as their
head coach. And
they waited on
him,
his decision,
and negotiations broke down, and he could not. He went back to his former team that he played with as a player and signed with the Houston Texans. So surface point is like, oh, Houston Texans just trying to, just cover up and hide from all this other controversy, so they're hiring another black coach. Very possible. But DeMeco Ryans was a high demand candidate, which is ironic because this is the first time I've actually heard about his name as being a high quality candidate, when we were talking about Eric Bieniemy and Brian Flores and all of these other names.
Byron Leftwich, there are a lot of names.
Byron Leftwich, all of these names, he wasn't really there, but now he's getting offered multiple jobs. So I just find it interesting, and hopefully this means that Houston as an organization is going to invest in him to the point where he can actually bring them to the point of where he wants to go. He can bring his staff, he can bring his personnel, he can do the drafting, he can be part of building up the organization. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a Tony Dungy situation where he gets them to that point of success and then they remove him and then they bring in another coach to, get them over the finish line to the Super Bowl. But I just find this very different than other things that we talked to. And it's encouraging. Like, it's encouraging that he was a black coach that actually had his choice of where he was going to go.
Right. Fair. We shall see. Because it was divulged this week, we got to at least touch on it. The greatest of all times, the GOAT conversation, when it comes to football, and sometimes people will say across all sports because he's won so much, you can't have a GOAT conversation without Tom Brady. Tom Brady, in a very quick but meaningful snippet on social media, retired. In terms of this episode, 2 foul shots. What do you think is more extreme? That he is the greatest of all times, regardless of positions? Or some people say he's the greatest of all time in terms of cheaters? Now, ETP, I got to start with you on this one because you are a self-proclaimed New England Patriot to the core, everything Boston, Beantown, baby. You even said you thought he was going to come back to the Patriots for 1 year. What's more extreme, man? Is he the greatest of all times, regardless of position? Or those who call him a cheater, do they have a leg to stand on?
Again, I don't think it's a mutually exclusive.
Oh, you think he did cheat? So
there's an admission. I don't know. Look, this is, at the end of the day, there's cheating happening in all sports on all levels. Like, there's no question about it. So I'm not going to say that he did or did. I actually don't care. Like, I want to be entertained as a fan. Like, I don't care if you're doing steroids to hit home runs. I want to see home runs. Like, do what you got to do. I want to be entertained. So from that perspective, that's irrelevant to me because, Jerry Rice put glue on his hands. Like, what, there's all types of glue. Like, all
It was adhesive. It was adhesive. It was enhancement.
Yeah, okay.
It was water based.
Part of my lack of vocabulary. a bonding agent
Right.
that secured itself to the leather properties of a football. So all that to say is just
But
like
he didn't
that
get
part-
caught. A foul is only a foul if the referee blows the whistle. He didn't get caught.
It's only being a crybaby if they call it tech. You see where we going there?
So I mean, yeah, he's the longevity. I mean, he had 3 Hall of Fame careers in one. There's no conversation about it, right? Like there's people that were better athletes. There's people that have better individual seasons. There's people that have been more dominant at their position in concentration. But there's nobody that's had a career with the longevity and the consistency and the success that he had. But obviously, I mean, I think the other part is he's also one of the greatest, executives, NFL executives of all time, because he wouldn't have had that success if he didn't negotiate his deals in a way where they could bring in the talent to support him. And he was always willing to move that stuff around so they could have the top defenses, could have all of the talent around him. That's what the way it worked in New England for 20 years. And then he went to Tampa Bay and they did the same exact thing. He took a low salary. They were able to bring in a ton of talent. And then eventually he had to ride off into the sunset. So greatest on all fronts, greatest football player. But, you could argue, as an individual and his individual skills and capabilities, you could argue that all day. Different positions are different positions. I've never seen anybody play football like Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White or Deion Sanders or Jerry Rice, but you can't compare them.
And my man Papo was talking about doggone Tom Brady because he's a Michigan fan. What school did he go from? Shout out to you, Papo. Appreciate you joining. Yeah, he is a Michigan man. I throw it over to you, Big Flow Show, because him retiring again. Look, I respect the fact that he did it so nonchalant. Hey, man, I'm out. I respect that more than the melodrama of Aaron Rodgers not knowing what you're like. I just, at some point, don't hold us hostage. And he said as much in his retirement post. So shout out to Tom Brady, man. But there are 2 different extremes when it comes to him. Winner, absolutely. But those 2 extremes in this episode are 2 foul shots. There's one shot that says he's, regardless of position, the greatest ever played the game. There's another one that just sort of undermines everything he did and categorizes as cheating. Not everything, because you can't right away everything he did, but they try to make the narrative about cheating superior and more important than the narrative of winning. I asked you, what say you, man, as we say goodbye to, at a minimum, one of the greatest to ever play the game?
I want to hate Tom sometimes, but I really don't. I mean, he's a decent guy. He's personable. He wins. He's not the best quarterback from a skill standpoint by a long shot, but he is the greatest winner of all times in football, right? He's the greatest, do whatever. If you look at all the stuff that's happened for him, there's been many guys. What was the name of that linebacker for the Bengals?
Burfict? Who you talking about?
No, the one that just pushed Mahomes out.
Osai.
Oh, Osai. Joseph Osai.
There's been many Osais in the story of Tom Brady and his lore. There was one for the Chiefs that lined up off sides and gave him a first down to come back and win the game. There's coaches that should have run the ball that decided to throw slants. There's a lot of people that have made his.
There's coaches that failed a math test. Dan Quinn with the Atlanta Falcons. You failed math, bro. It was
NFL rules committee people.
Stop using that to discredit the man's performance. He threw 100 balls in that game, dog.
Made
you saying that he lost because of a math test versus Tom Brady.
But the bottom line is,
there's
people who've made epic mistakes at bad times that have helped him win half of not all of them, but half of the Super Bowls he's been in. And maybe not the Super Bowl, but like you just look at every story. There's at least 4 I can think of right now that you're like, God, this was so dumb. This was been such an easy win to do it. Maybe not the whole thing with the give it to beast mode because he still has to run through. Everyone thought he was going to go to beast mode, so they could have stopped it. But the bottom line is,
they weren't going to stop beast mode. He just
but you know what I mean. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, come on, man. But like when he played against before the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, and the guy lines up. No, jumping off sides is one thing. To line up off sides
Yeah, the D
makes you a
end.
monkey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he lines up off sides and get the downs and come back anyway. So bottom line, there's a lot of stuff that goes there. But I can't take this away from him. When those opportunities present themselves, he almost always capitalized on them. So I take my hat off to him. I love the fact that, whatever he's going through his personal life, he lost his wife.
Is it worth it? That was going to be my last question. So to both of you, yes, no. Some say he lost his family because of the decision to come back. And you know what? I'm not even going to say that because how do we know? I guess time will tell if it was worth it. I hope that's not why. Independently, I'm assuming it was a collection of things, and I wish him the best. Losing your family is nothing to play around with. So I'm not even gonna have fun with that one. I'll move on.
He walked away from the game. I like that he didn't make too big of a deal about it. And he just put it out there. He didn't make a big look at me scenario. He did whatever. So I wish him nothing but the best. I know we'll be seeing him in the booth. Maybe he won't almost drop an N-bomb like Tony Romo when he's doing color commentating on the games.
For those who call him a cheater, for that camp, I want you to meet Arlisha Boykins because cheating, as my man Papo said, and I have to agree. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But there was a JV coach that took that to a whole different level this week. And you talk about 2 foul shots. This was about as foul as it gets. A 22-year-old coach decided
She identified as a 13-year-old, though.
She identified as a 13-year-old and played a JV game. Obviously, she got fired. Whole coaching staff got fired. The team decided not to finish the season. The particular 13-year-old that she was trying to represent herself to be was away at some travel team game. So she wasn't there to add those buckets. But in comes assistant coach Arlisha Boykins. And are we at the end? Talking about 2 foul shots. How extreme or ridiculous is this?
Talking about a JV game, by the way. We're talking about a JV game.
JV game. A JV game. Arlisha Boykins, we don't give out donkey of the day, but if we did, you would receive it right now. She cost herself a career and probably a job and probably her career. Because if something were to have happened to any of those young ladies, she got an and one and was celebrating. She blocked the shot, was talking trash. She was woofing. Like if something would have happened, and thankfully it did not. But if someone would have got hurt in that game because of their interactions with a 22-year-old grown woman, I think she would probably have faced criminal charges. No? And that type of recklessness will cost you a career when it comes to being in the school system. Arlisha Boykins is a whole different level of cheating. She decided to be a JV. What would inspire you to go out there and play JV? To me, that's just crazy.
She could make varsity.
She could.
Hey, man, Stetson Bennett older than Lamar Jackson.
Y'all see Stetson Bennett got arrested this week for public intoxication.
I can't believe that didn't get more story for us. That was terrible. The best part was, did you see the targeting shot when the dude tackled him?
Oh, that dude had form tackle.
Man, he pounded him. He probably was like, when he had him, he's like, man, I hit the dude. I hit the Heisman guy. Heisman finalists. I blew.
Well, they're talking about how they ran down the dude that won the Heisman because I thought he was faster than that. He must have really been drunk.
No, he had an angle though.
He had a pursuit angle,
and that wall was right there, so he couldn't give him nothing. He just had to
that wall made me think that he could be out for a while. That wall,
that looked like that. Looked like
you're supposed to be training for the draft, and you running from the police getting drugged. What are you doing?
Maybe that's what he calls training. High intensity.
We're at that part of the show, man, where we're gonna hit some quick hitters. Robert Horry is at a basketball game watching his son. And there are videos of him talking trash, telling a ref that he stinks, and he is summarily asked to leave. He is basically ejected from a game, having not played the game.
What is that?
Then they show a clip for a few years back. I don't know if it's the same son, but he squares up with a guy in an outdoor court across from Staples Center. I don't know if they call it Staples Center anywhere. LA Live, whatever they call that now. Robert Ory, Big Shot Bob. In this episode of Two Foul Shots, Big Shot Bob. Those are two very foul shots. I'm a passionate dad, but I think he took it too far. You got to kind of laugh things off. And certain refs are just bad refs, right? And I guess seeing Robert Ory in that light and knowing that people got their cameras out in this day and age, I kind of felt bad for him. I don't know. We don't say CTE when it comes to basketball players, but I think that the transition going into regular life and not being the highlight in a gym, not being the focal point, it just seemed like maybe that's getting the big shot, Bob. I know you both saw it. Quick rundown on what you thought when you see Robert Ory being ejected from a game that he's not even playing in, a high school game that he's not even playing in. And oh, by the way, these are two private schools, two Catholic schools. It's just bad representation. ETP, I'll start with you quickly on it before we get on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it cuts a couple ways. One, you would just think, okay, I've been through this. I'm a retired pro athlete. This is, it's not anything to get worked up about. But at the same time, you have that competitive fire. But no, that's the piece. Like, that's the type of outburst that you don't want kids to see. Those are the bad examples that you absolutely don't want kids to see. And you don't want, that's the problem with youth sports in general. Like, people are just invested at levels where it's not even about the kids. It's not about development. It's about things that are way beyond, what the spirit of sports are. So it's unfortunate to see whether, the fortunate thing is that he has a name to it so that we can point out the problems with it. But this happens all the time. All the time, parents are overstepping boundaries, getting, too overzealous and too compassionate or offensive in these situations. And I don't know how to solve it, but they're just over invested and they're not focused on what's important for the kids.
Yeah, it looked like a transition issue for me to watch him try to soak up that much attention in a gym where you're supposed to be additive. You're supplemental to what's going on the court. You're not the show. Big Flow Show, I know you and I both are dads that are passionate at games, and I know you've been ejected from a game as a dad. I'm joking.
Absolutely not.
But
I've had one.
When you see that, man, what do you think, right? And
I said before earlier today, emotions get the best of you, and the fact that the love that you have for your kids, love makes you do crazy things, and the love people have for their kids makes them do crazier things. And then even to further that, I say that the fact that a guy who has more championships than Michael Jordan and has had every reason to understand how meaningless the game that he really is, even he can't control himself. So I'm like, I don't give it a pass, but I think people can't believe it. I would say if you're a youth parent right now, you've acted a little bit goofy. I want you to go to a youth game that you don't care who wins. And I want you to sit there and watch the other parents scream at there. And you're going to be embarrassed by what you see because you're going to realize how crazy you were. When I go to youth football games and I see how just juvenile the whole situation is and how meaningless it really is, I laugh at how seriously I took it when I did it. And nobody took it more seriously than me. No one scouted more games. So I just say we can look at it both ways and say this goes over the top. But when you go and you watch other people get involved, they just get so consumed by their love and their passion for things. And it just gets misguided at times. So hopefully he looks at this one day and he realizes he made big mistakes. He apologizes to the people he needs to apologize for. But first one is his son he needs to apologize to. But the ref, the school, and everybody else he needs to make right for that because it's ignorant.
It's interesting that you say he has more rings than who?
Jordan.
And Jordan has more rings than LeBron.
LeBron's
not opted to say Jordan instead of LeBron. So was that an admission that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time?
It just means I have math skills and he has more championships than LeBron. That's all that means.
But you know how to use the greater than less
than.
And
if Ory can cry at his son's game after having all those championships, then for God's sakes, LeBron can complain because the foul wasn't called and cost the game.
In a regular season,
I rest my case.
Pre-All-Star meaningless game. Let's get into this real quick, man, before we get out of here, because we got to get out. Ocho Cinco gave financial advice to athletes that I thought was cool. He talked about how he is still living off of really his initial check. 83% of it, according to him, 83% of his career earnings, he still has them. in accounts, and he talked about how he would wear earrings and they weren't real. They came from Claire's. He lived off his name. He's like, people just assume that they're real anyway, so you might as well fool them. I thought it was great financial advice from, again, a very unlikely source, because this is also the man that has kids spread throughout the world. He said that, not spread throughout the world, he's not Nick Cannon, but he does have multiple kids, and he
They
talked
shop
about
at
how
the same stores.
not well. Nick Cannon's different level, right? That's
How many does Chad have? Ocho
I
or
don't
Cinco?
want to misquote that, but he does
Ocho or
have
Cinco.
he does not have 8. He is, but he made it apparent that he makes the choice based on genetics. Like, he looks at
So
them
man,
as,
just to let you know, you're right. I type in how many kids, and it says, "Does Nick Cannon have?" To finish my sentence on.
oh yeah. I mean, he's in a whole different level. So from that standpoint, that probably wasn't the smartest for his own.
Oh, he only has
personal
4
finances.
kids.
Say again.
Chad only has 4.
He has 4 kids, but I think, and again, I don't want to misquote, but I know that those 4 kids are not from the same woman, and I know that he's not married to at least one of the kids that attended my high school. So, but he made some great sound financial advice and told athletes to basically save their money. So shout out to Chad Ochocinco, man. Sometimes good financial sound advice comes from the most unlikely places, and Chad Ochocinco being the latest of it. I know I sent you guys a clip. He was bragging on Uncle Shannon Sharp's podcast about being cheap. It was a reprieve from all of the rappers and the faking that you hear. People walk around with diamond testers. You got to be a special type of thirsty to walk around with a diamond tester to figure out somebody else's diamonds are real. And here you have Chad Ochocinco in this same day and age, not only admitting to it, owning it, and bragging about wearing fake stuff. Different.
What I like the most about what he said, which I thought was profound, is his name is bigger than any of the brands that he can buy. So, like, I don't need to buy a Bentley to make Chad Ochocinco a big deal. Chad Ochocinco is already a big deal. So, I think if a lot of people thought like that, like, why are you trying to impress me with a car? You have done enough to be impressive without having to go out and buy all this stuff.
Right.
So, I like it for that.
Shout out, Chad Ochocinco. We were going to do NILs, role in recruiting. We'll get to that because Nick Saban had some very choice words with a particular recruit that said, I ain't coming unless I get the bag. He gave him a different kind of bag, and it was a going away bag. We got consolation prize at the door, but you ain't getting that bag of money that you asked for. So shout out to him. There's some purity left in it. And maybe Nick Saban, because he's on his way out, can be the catalyst to change where NIL deals fall in this recruiting war, because we've seen some really bad deals, and we talked about it. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about the Florida deal going south and that recruit being sort of a free agent now. And I hate to call it free agent. That's what it feels like.
State. He signed with Arizona State for for no money.
For no money.
The collectors are done with him, I guess. So he got 0 money. He signed with Arizona State yesterday. So National Signing Day was like yesterday or Wednesday.
Yeah. It's so anticlimactic now because it used to be the only signing day. Now this is the second of 2 signing days, and we already know where everyone's going. This only bolsters recruiting classes. So, I mean, that was it. First Tuesday in February. What was it? First, whatever it was.
First Wednesday of the month.
First Wednesday of February. Used to be everybody stop the presses, most important day, and now it's like, who cares? We already know where everybody's going because they got an early signing day. Things have changed. You're getting old. That's what that is. The NBA All-Star reserves came out. My man Harden didn't make it. I think he took exception to that. But the NBA All-Star game will be fun. Compare that to the NFL Pro Bowl that is now. Let me get this right, because it is a flag game. The NFL Pro Bowl this week will consist of various skill competition events, a 7-on-7 flag football game. That's right. I said it. It has officially become a flag football game. They've been in pads and it looked like a flag football game. Now this is officially a flag football game. First block of events being held on February 2nd. That was yesterday. And yeah, man, it's in Las Vegas, and they'll be playing flag. And are we literally like? I mean, what else can we do to water this down? I don't know what we're doing here.
It could be.
Flag
It could
football.
turn into a swim relay race, and I think that's about the only thing that would be further down. This is so embarrassing. I'm going to choose not to believe you guys. I can't. I can't.
I hope they not finna go out there and play flag.
Flag football. And I hate to say this, but I gotta say it because it is what it is. I feel like somebody's going to get hurt.
Well, the first major, not first, but the one that I recall that was big news. The big injury was during a volleyball game during the Pro Bowl.
No,
I don't remember who that was.
It was a football game, but it was in the sand.
Oh, I thought that was a volleyball game.
It was a football game. I think the dude played for the Patriots. He blew his knee out of the sand. Yeah. I can't remember what that guy was.
Truth of the matter is, man, you cannot make that game any safer. The ligaments, the joints, they're going to do what they need to do. And after an accumulation of not 16, but now 17 games plus playoffs, a lot of wear and tear on the body. So we pray that there are no injuries. But my gosh, NFL, a week after we talk about they need to take a page out of the NBA All-Star Games book and figure out how to be more innovative and engaging with the fan base, now we're going to have flag football. Anyway, man, this has been a great episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. 2 foul shots, 2 very extreme points of view on some of the most riveting topics of sports business entertainment. The whole crew is in the building. We had the Big Flow Show from the Middle Coast. We had ETP right here from the East Coast. I am your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hawk, a.k.a. the Mouth South, a.k.a. Mr. Accessible Celebration, a.k.a. Breezy, in the building for another great week. We ask you humbly to like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both the podcast and to the YouTube channel. We started with this and said a foul and a foul unless the ref blows a whistle. Inspired by the now infamous non-call of LeBron James going to the hole against Jason Tatum, but also motivated by so many other stories in sports business entertainment. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Tag a friend, tag a foe, and make sure you subscribe. For this week and this episode of 2 Foul Shots, we are officially done. We is out. Peace.